On the evening of November 30th, 1896, two boys, Herbert Coles and Dunham Courtier, were roaming along the shore of Anastasia Island. The sun was going down, the tide was pulling back, and that's when they saw it. Half buried in the sand, enormous, pale, with a strange silvery sheen. They thought it was a beached whale. They had seen a washed-up whale before, but this was different. They reported what they found to the first person who might know what to do, a local physician and naturalist, Dr. DeWitt Webb. Dr. Webb would become the most important figure in this mystery, and the only person with any scientific background to examine the carcass in person while it was still there. What he found defied easy explanation. The visible portion of the mass measured 18 feet long and 7 feet wide, rising 3.5 feet out of the sand. Webb estimated it weighed 5 tons. It was composed of a rubbery, cartilaginous substance so hard, he wrote that it could only be cut with great difficulty. Most striking of all, it appeared to have limbs, stumps of what looked like arms. And when a colleague dug around the base of the carcass shortly after, he reported something that fed the mystery. He measured one arm laying to the west of the body, 23 feet long, 3 more arms to the south. Webb was convinced. He wrote the scientific community with his conclusion. This was the remains of a giant octopus. Webb's letter eventually reached one of the most respected cephalopod experts in the country, Professor Addison Emery Verrill of Yale University. Verrill went back and forth. At first he thought it might be a giant squid. Then, in January of 1897, he reversed himself and declared it was indeed a giant octopus, potentially one with arms stretching 75 to 100 feet in length. He gave it a name, Octopus gigantus. Newspapers ran with it. The story spread from St. Augustine to New York, Philadelphia, and beyond. Readers were riveted. A monster, an actual sea monster, had washed ashore in Florida. Remember, this was the late 1800s. Recent books like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea had convinced the public that monstrous creatures might exist beneath the waves. Sea monsters were sort of like the UFOs of their time. People wanted to believe. The carcass became a tourist attraction. Visitors came to see this curiosity. 12 men with blocks and tackle reportedly couldn't even turn the thing over. But then, Verrill changed his mind. After examining tissue samples, Verrill concluded that the creature was not an octopus at all. He suggested that the mass was more likely the upper portion of a sperm whale's head, detached from the skull. The scientific world moved on, and slowly, the carcass was forgotten. And there the story might have ended, if not for a yellowed newspaper clipping discovered in 1957 by Forrest Wood, a marine curator at Marineland of Florida. The clipping mentioned the 1896 event. It claimed the living creature would have had the girth of 25 feet and tentacles 72 feet long. Wood was obsessed. He tracked down a tissue sample preserved at the Smithsonian Institution and sent it to cell biologist at the University of Florida named Dr. Joseph Gennaro. Gennaro compared the tissue structure of the St. Augustine sample to known specimens of octopus, squid, and whale. His conclusion, as published in Natural History magazine in 1971. The evidence appears unmistakable that the St. Augustine sea monster was in fact an octopus. But the implications are fantastic. The idea of a gigantic octopus with arms 75 to 100 feet in length, a total spread of some 200 feet, is difficult to comprehend. The monster was real. Or was it? In 1986, biochemist Roy Mackal of the University of Chicago ran amino acid analysis on preserved samples. His conclusion aligned with Gennaro's. The tissue was consistent with an octopus, not whale. But scientific questioning did not stop there. In 1995, researchers subjected the same samples to electron microscopy and a full biochemical analysis, the most rigorous examination yet. Their findings? published in the Biological Bulletin, pushed back hard. The samples, they concluded, were masses of virtually pure collagen, specifically the collagen structure of whale blubber, not octopus. Not a new species. Most likely a skin layer from a large sperm whale, separated from the carcass and distorted by time in the ocean. A follow-up study in 2004 confirmed it. Case closed, said the scientists. But here's what they can't close. The photographs, the eyewitness accounts, the arms. Webb wasn't inventing the stumps he described. The man who dug around the carcass wasn't making up 23-foot appendages. Dr. George Grant, a hotel owner on Anastasia Island, wrote his own description. 7 tentacles, a creature like nothing cataloged before. Were they all wrong? Were they all seeing what they wanted to see? The tissue may be whale, but what washed ashore that November night? That is a harder question. 130 years ago, something came out of the Atlantic Ocean and landed right here on this beach. It was big enough to draw crowds, strange enough to confuse Yale professors, and debated for over a century. This story reminds us the ocean is vast. We've mapped less of its floor than we've mapped the surface of Mars. There are things down there yet to be named. And every so often, one of them washes up on the shores of America's oldest city. Are sea monsters real? What do you think happened here 130 years ago? Leave a comment below. Hey, thanks for watching. For more local St. Augustine content, don't forget to like and subscribe.